Welcome back. You're watching Agenda Kenya with me, Jason Yantino. Tonight we are focusing on various governance issues that may pose a challenge as we prepare for the next general election. Benji, you were saying something before we took a break.
Yes, we were talking about the propensity.
How the voter is to blame
yes,
for quite a long time.
In a sense, for being very vulnerable to the machinations of politicians, etc. And what we have to do is we have to do continuous civic education, and I've said this many times, as well as voter education. The truth of the matter is that what has happened in this country for the last many years, and remember we lived in a tyranny, under KANU for many years, for 24 years, is the oppression, keeping people outside of opportunity, keeping people marginalized, keeping the vast majority not educated and hungry. Mm-hmm. And so it is very easy, therefore, to confuse a hungry voter who doesn't have a job, who doesn't have much education. They're almost like a child. Mm-hmm. And so this has been by design. This has been by design, Jason, so that when you show up, in your area where people are basically helpless, then you become an angel or a lord of sorts. Okay. And this kind of manipulation must stop. Okay, well,
Ongoi, quickly, please.
I think part of our problem as the voting people has been civic education that is handed down to us in a very simplified way. For instance, we were all told the problem was KANU. And so in 2002, people gladly let go of KANU. What nobody told you is, like, even now as we sit, the leading presidential candidates are children born and raised in KANU. It is the chairman of KANU, the former vice chairman, the secretary general, the deputy, the vice chairman of KANU. If I took Uhuru Kenyatta chairman, William Ruto secretary general, Raila Odinga secretary general, Mudavadi vice chairman, Kalonzo vice chairman, and those are our leading people. And so you tell voters, you give people very simple civic education that is also totally wrong. The issue is not KANU. It's the people in KANU. And so they all took flight, went into ODM, went into PLE. We voted them back. We voted them back in. Okay. Now that brings me to the second issue. The problem with Kenya is not so much the vulnerability of the Kenyan people, because I have seen poor people struggle to raise their children even when they are in total want. When Kenyans want to do something, they get up and they do it. They do harambes. We give birth to our children, we educate them, even when we have no job. 60% unemployment, we are still developing. In politics, Kenyans have become intellectually lazy. Mm-hmm. And we have very good laws, but good laws don't enforce themselves. Even the recall clause that we speak about.
What is the solution to that?
Kenyans must simply take it into their hands to change their lives. Read more, get involved, do more. Because look at the moment. Right now, we have more than 25 million eligible voters in this country. Only 700,000 Kenyans are registered in a political party. How will you change anything?
Thank you, Ongoi. I'll take my next question from Janet Agor.
My name is Janet. I'm representative of young women. My question goes like, will Kenyan men one day vote a woman as their president? Because they believe in their culture, they are superior than us. Why don't they give us a chance to see?
Okay, thank you, Janet. Maimuna, you need to respond to that, then we can spread the debate.
Janet, that's a very good question, and I'm glad you raised it. Will Kenyan men ever vote a woman to be president? The answer is as good as I can say no.
Why do you say so?
Jason, I say so because Kenya has been in the forefront in terms of affirmative action. Women have been agitating for their rights for many, many, many years, several decades. I've been part and parcel of the whole women movement until we got the gender rule in the Constitution. However, what we have seen in the region, country like Uganda, the leadership was very supportive, so they have had affirmative action imposed on them. They've moved forward. Rwanda, which went to war and pulled itself up, Kagame was supportive of women. That is why it is on the top of the world today. So is Tanzania. Kenya, we're still at the same place. You want to tell me that we are going to change? No, we can't change.
Now,
unless
a quick
you as
one,
voters.
Maimuna, you have said that Rwanda has very many women in the
Absolutely.
house, Uganda, and you've said that they are ahead of us. What do you mean when you say they're ahead of us? Ahead of us in terms of numbers?
They have superseded the 30%.
Quality of lives?
It's not the quality of life alone. They've superseded the representation of women beyond 30%. So, Rwanda is on the top of the world with over 51%. But again, when you look at those countries, what is it that drove them to move to that level? It is the leadership, the goodwill of the leadership of that country. I'm talking about Kagame. I'm talking about Museveni, even with his many problems. I'm talking about Kikwete in Tanzania. So in Kenya, I would say that President Kibaki is the one who should lead and show the way that we need to get women involved. So the rest of the men in Kenya would follow Kibaki too.
Okay. I want Wangui, because she has talked about the gender rule that has been controversial for some time. You know that?
Yes.
What is your position about that?
First of all, I'm not a Kenyan man. I've been struggling to understand how our men think lately. And I don't quite get it. But I'll tell you... So you may not understand how I think because I'm a Kenyan man? Because I don't understand how it is that you can have us for girlfriends and wives and suddenly we are not fit to make a law. You know?
Tell us more.
I have that little conflict. But I'll tell you what my observation is. Most African countries that have embraced women have unfortunately done it after a war. That is the case true of Rwanda, it is a case true of Uganda, it is a case true of places like Liberia. The unfortunate thing is that it seems that the Kenyan man is bent on having this country go first to war so that you can recognize that we women are a part and parcel of this country and we want to work in partnership.
So can you give us a way forward? Because the Constitution is clear.
I'll tell you
what. And I'll tell you what, even men voted for that constitution that allows for 2/3 anyway.
Apparently,
so how do we get a law
without reading? Which means it's possible that the 66% that voted for it was a drive of women, because they all seem surprised that we did put in the constitution that 1/3 of our legislative bodies will have to have women, and all of a sudden our men seem to suddenly wake up to the realization. I could almost take credit that women moved that constitution, because it seems men seem to be surprised about it. But I'll tell you this. We need affirmative action in this country, not as a matter of right, but because the environment in this country is absolutely hostile to women in politics. If I just look at our history, we have, since the 60s, we've had women in politics, but very few of them. And I'll start with saying we have cases that are rife in our history that make it almost impossible for a seriously thinking woman to get into politics. I'll take the case of Tabitha Say. She ran for office during Kanu's days, stripped naked in a political rally. How many of you would willingly suggest to your wife to get involved in any activity that would result in her getting stripped down? 2007, we had Flora Igoki raped and fed her own feces because she is running against office and running against a man who lost anyway. How many of you would be willing to sacrifice your mother to that? And the situation comes to this. One of the problems we have is that the ruling clique in parliament is essentially identical. To be in parliament, you have to have two qualities. You must be rich and you must also be wily. You must be a thug of some sort.
Thank you. Let's get to hear from the audience. Gentleman at the back on my left, last row.
My name is Rafael Omonde. I'm from Kibera. I really feel when my mother's talking about this. But again, I want to put a twist to the questions, is to whether the women are also ready for a woman president, because today we are being informed that the most registered voters in Kenya are women, and they are the people who vote. So if we don't have a woman president, then there is a problem, because all of us, we do vote. Second thing that I want to put in henceforth, I think things are changing. Recently, I read in one of the newspapers that the ODM is going to finance the women aspirant. Could the women now jump either to ODM so that they're being financed to run for those positions?
Okay, thank you. You will respond. Next comment, gentleman here in front, in black.
At the same time, I'll just...
Your name, please.
My name is Humphrey. I'm from Starehe. My question, I'll just reinforce what is just said, because it seems as if the enemy of women, they are women themselves. Reason why, Honorable Mother Karua, she's a woman. That's a fact. And the way he just said, you'll find that those people who normally vote, most of the time, they are women. So at this particular time, I don't see why women themselves, they want to corner themselves by, in quotes, trying to make them to look to be endangered species in the country.
So you are telling them to come out and vote, or what are you telling them?
The thing is, they have got the weapon themselves.
Okay.
In fact, majority of those people who vote, they are women. So I don't see the reason why they should complain, and yet they have got the weapon themselves.
Okay, thank you. Can you respond to some of those issues?
I want to dispel a notion that it is easier for a woman to win an election in this country. It is not. It is not a level playing field. It's not the way you have Gor Mahia and AFC coming to play in Nyayo Stadium and the rules are there. The rules are different. And the women have an insurmountable task to be able to be elected. First within their party, and then when it now comes to their one, is with financing, there's a place of security. Let me give you an example. When you go for a rally as a man, you'll be fine. But just because you're a woman and you are physically you cannot defend yourself over that, a woman is not going to go into a crowd, okay, of people.
Because of violence.
Because of violence that we have seen. So that does not help with a woman getting there. However, this is not to dispel the fact that there have been women who have actually been able to get over and been elected. I mean, I would like to say, to the question that in our audience said, I look forward to the day when Kenyans will vote for a woman as a president. But let me explain. In Game, the people of Game were able to be convinced earlier in the 70s that Grace Ogot could elect them. The people of Karachuonyo were the same with Phoebe Asio. The people of Funyula with Julia Ojambo. And I want to say this to the women who are out there. The positions are there, and we as a people need to have confidence not in the fact that the person is a lady or a woman, but the fact that this person can give leadership.
All right, Benji, let Benji give it a go, then I'll come back to you.
Jason, I really commend the guests here who have cut through the fog and cut through the chase. The truth of the matter is that we're asking the wrong question. The right question is, are women ready to vote for another woman? And for someone like myself in the civil society, we undergo civic education and talk to people all the time. During the Nancy Baraza confrontation, I remember very, very well. I even went to do my own, fact-finding on the thing. And I remember very well a lady saying, "Iyo ni kisarani yetu wa mama." You can see what that lady did. She had not even been in office 6 months. And so the truth of the matter is that I believe that Charity Ngilu, Betty Murungi, Phoebe Asio, Wangari Maathai are hardworking Kenyans, are tough Kenyans. They also happen to be women. And so the question would be, tell me how the field was leveled for those women. So
Benji, I still have one question for you about the U.S., where you lived for many, many years. Even the U.S., one of the best democracies in the world, has not voted a woman president.
Absolutely. And, I was just explaining that in the Senate, which in the House, which comprise of over 435 members and 200 members, women are still very much the minority. Why? The society is patriarchal, yes, and that's not necessarily a crime or a sin, but it's also very meritorious. And so you have the women who are very tough, who have run a good agenda, who have communicated well. In fact, if you look at a site like realclearpolitics.com, it was there that I found out that the Sarah Palin candidacy in 2008 was first being shot down by women themselves. That they were saying that women are the same ones who actually do not trust women. And so I think it's a fallacious view to try to divide society and categorize, society as men against women and all of this. I think it's about meritocracy. I think women leaders in this country, the Phoebe Asios, the Wangari Maathais, the Betty Murungis, the Charity Ngilus, the Wavinya Ndetis did not have any ground level for them. They fought it out. They just happened to be women, and there were good women leaders at that. And
all right. Time for our second break. But if you are watching us from home, you can be part of this discussion by answering this question. Do you think the Kenyan voter is to blame for the bad political leadership the country has experienced? You can text your response to the numbers on your screen. Give us your name, where you're watching us from. We'll be right back.